We're back. It's like they never left. The Sabres disappoint in game one, and we really shouldn't be that surprised. We'll get into the 4-1 loss in Prague to the Devils coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
Your Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in to this regular season edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast with Sneaky Joe DiBiase. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen every day, wherever you may be listening. And remember, you can always check us out on our YouTube channel if you would like to watch the show. You could also hit us up on our text line, Locked On Sabres text line, which you can sign up for at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Sabres. Today's episode of the show brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. 0-1. 0-1 for the Sabres. Here we are again. It really is uncanny how similar it feels, how maddening this team can make you feel or suck the life out of you if you've got any left. I know there were a couple of our texters during the game that I think gave up. I think, it's some people are right on the edge. Some people are ready to step over that line of just not caring. Everybody's got their line in the sand. And this team really tests the will of you as a sports fan when you have a team that you want to get invested for year after year after year, and you just get let down year after year after year, and then you spend the summer getting yourself excited. Lindy's back, the new players, the bottom six is remade. All right, let's get Tage back to what he was. Here we go. They're back. They're going to break the drought. And it's just immediate. They just put you right back in your place. Optimism? No. What are you doing over there with all that optimism? We're the Sabres. We don't do optimism. Overreaction Friday. We're going to make this Overreaction Friday reacting to a 4-1 loss to the Devils. So a lot of what we'll do on regular season game shows coming up this season, including on today's show. We'll look at the tape. We'll break down the goals that went in the back of the net for the Sabres. We'll look through their goals as well. Today will be more time spent on the goals in their own net, what went wrong on each individual play, who maybe was to blame for it, and that can give us a good sense of kind of how the game got away from them in this one. I got some bigger takeaways from today's game, including Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's game, the power play. Jason Zucker had a couple of moments in this game. I got a thought about Tage Thompson that might be saved for a different show, but I want to mention it. So a lot to get to on today's Locked On Sabres podcast. But yeah. The line in the sand on when not to care, everybody does have it. They really do. Everybody has it. My brother, huge Sabre fan growing up. His line in the sand was like 8 years ago. He was like year 5, of early year 6. Once the Eichel team started not winning, it was, all right, call me when they're good. Call me when they're actually good. And he maybe showed up for the 10-game win streak, and when that was fake, he bounced back out. So my brother is somebody that, like, in the text group, my text line today, he's like, the Sabres are back. Up 3-0. Guess I'll see you next year. Every year they do this. Every game they do this. They lose another fan. Maybe not forever, but they lose the interest of a fan. They lose the bandwidth of a fan. They are doing themselves some real harm as an organization and franchise every year that they do this to us. It's one game. They're going to turn around, right? Tomorrow. What better way to respond to a loss that has everybody feeling bad than, you get a 10 a.m. game the next day? Love it. Go out on Friday, have a good time, and then wake us up on Saturday, and we'll get a little brunch hockey and hopefully get you a win. Something to feel positive about for the next 5 days. So we'll get to it all coming up today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. It was not just the game that went poorly. We had some injury news that wasn't great either that we can get right to here on the show. There was a little bit of a scare in the second period. Tage Thompson left the bench for a time, returned though, played, looks to be okay. But something to keep in mind, because him having nagging injuries was the story of last year, and you don't want that to repeat itself. Nicholas Aube-Kubel was also injured in this game. He was seen after Lance Lysowski of the Buffalo News tweeted this, that Aube-Kubel was seen with a brace / sleeve on his left leg. And Lindy Ruff basically said that he's not expected to play tomorrow against the Devils. So we'll see if that ends up being a longer-term thing. But for the time being, no Aube-Kubel on Saturday at time of recording here on Friday evening. My guess is that Peyton Krebs would go into the lineup and just replace him on the fourth line, keep that a checking defensive line. If it were me, if I were the coach, I would probably bump Jordan Greenway down to the fourth line and keep that fourth line a checking line, and then put Yuri Kulik on the third line, give him a chance to play in his hometown, and let's get a look at the kid and see if he can maybe score some goals for them, and put him on the line with Ryan McLeod and Jason Zucker on the third line, I should say. So that's the news update on the injuries from this game. My overall takeaways, or really just kind of overall takeaways from this game. It was another slow start. This is what this team was criticized for, because they did it. They did it all last year, games like this, where I remember a game in November, a Friday game against Philadelphia. I think it was in November, where I got to the arena 5 minutes late. Maybe it was 4 minutes into the first period, and they were down 3-0. And how many times last season did the Sabres under Don Granato start really slow, looking like they weren't mentally ready for the game? And you got to the game, and by the time you got your feet under you, by the time you got into the game, you're down 2-0. You're down 3-0. How many times did that happen last year under Don Granato? And Granato, maybe rightfully so, was scapegoated for it. But you knew that's what happened to you last year. You knew that was got to be a point of emphasis coming into this season. Let's get out early. Let's get out to leads. Let's score the first goal. And the Sabres got thoroughly outplayed by the Devils in the first period before they could blink. It was 2-0. I couldn't believe my eyes, even though I should not be surprised in any way that they got off to another slow start. And Lindy Ruff, in postgame, the comment he made was that he thought they were nervous for the game. And I can't believe... Nervous for the game? Are these professional hockey players or not? Because I am not somebody... Look at my text line today, our Locked On Sabres text line. Scroll up and down the text I got. Everybody is calling them soft. It was one of two things. I think I got 19 to 50 texts at different points in the games that were just one word: Jesus. Whatever, it was a goal in the back of your net, or it was another moment. Just one word: Jesus, from everybody. Everybody had their time with that. But the text line today was filled with, man, this team is so mentally soft. And when I heard that criticism about Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart and Ristolainen and Ryan O'Reilly, I completely scoffed at it. And really, to this day, I don't really think that that's what was going on there. I think that team was more about the roster around them. I thought that core was super talented, and I don't think they were mentally soft at all. I think Jack Eichel especially was somebody that smashing sticks. Was he the most mature player behind the scenes? No, but when the game got rolling, he was going to show up, and he wasn't slow to start out of games. Again, not to say he was a perfect, choir boy. This team, I seriously look at those criticisms and think, I can't argue against you. I don't know how I would even start it. They do it all the time. And what else explains it? We know, well, I guess I was about to say, we know they're talented. Maybe we don't know they're talented. That is a thought in the back of my mind watching this team all the time. You watch the Devils. You watch Jack Hughes. You watch Luke Hughes. He wasn't in this game. Nico Hischier. Jesper Bratt Jesper Bratt's an incredible player for New Jersey. He is so good, silky smooth skating, great hockey sense, hands, shot. That guy is so good, and he is so underappreciated in the NHL. Very few casual hockey fans think even know who he is. Bratt is so good. I've got a bunch of players in New Jersey. I just do not question it. I don't know. Maybe we're overstating how talented they are, but I'll throw that in to my original point, which was going to be, we know they're talented. How do you always do this? How do you always do this? Why is it that the team can't get going until the pressure's off, the game is almost out of hand, and the other team is just trying to wind out the clock in the third period? Why is it that that's when they stack all their chances? That's when they start to play well. That's when they start to fly around. The Sabres in this game actually end up ahead in expected goals. I saw from moneypuck.com. They have their deserve a win meter. And the Sabres were at like 74%. But I saw those and thought, you're just stacking. It's garbage time. Third period. Congratulations. You started flying and getting your chances in the third period when you're down by 3 goals. In fact, the expected goals, you could break this down. In the first 2 periods of the game, expected goals, the Sabres come out ahead. Whole game, the Sabres in expected goals, 2.59 at 5-on-5 to the Devils' 2.03. So a full half a goal, 56%. Versus the Devils' 43%. Periods 1 and 2 only, expected goals in the game was 1.87 for the Devils, and it was 1.37 for the Sabres. The Devils were ahead, and then the Sabres destroyed them in the third period because the Devils didn't care. The Devils were playing prevent. Devils were just trying to wind the clock. So, congratulations on stacking up the numbers and the shots on goal at the end of the game. Where are they at the start of games? Why is that the first impression that we get of the 24-25 Sabres after we knew it was a flaw of the 23-24 Sabres? How did they start the year that way? They had their rest. They had 5 days off. They had their trip to Europe. They had their team bonding, They had their health. Everybody was out there. Nobody got hurt in the preseason. Why weren't they ready? You've got your hardcore, hold them accountable head coach. It's got them doing push-ups in practice. He got Lindy behind the bench. What is it? Why didn't they start the game hot? So frustrating. What a frustrating hockey team. What a frustrating sports franchise. Just who beats them for frustration? Nobody. They are the GOATs of keeping their fans as frustrated as possible. It's the first game. Can only go up from here. And I think it will go up from here. They're not going to look that bad every night. I don't think they're going to look that bad on Saturday. I think they're going to win on Saturday. There you go. How about that? When we come back, I'm going to go through the goals. Let's look at the tape. What happened? How did the Sabres get behind in this game? To the point where it was 3-0 in the second period. That's coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We are presented here on the show by FanDuel Sportsbook. So hockey, you can still get your futures in if you want to look at some, awards, or you want to look at your division props, the Sabres and some of their odds that you have on them. You could also check out tomorrow's game. The Sabres are underdogs, as they should be, against the New Jersey Devils. You can check that out. Maybe if you're confident like I am, maybe you take them as the underdog. And of course, baseball, playoffs, basketball's coming up, and it is football season. And hey, NFL fans, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, maybe you had this happen last night on Thursday Night Football, maybe you'll have it happen tomorrow during Sabres Devils. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 of bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Check it all out at FanDuel.com. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. If you would like to become a texter in our Locked On Sabres text club, you can do that by signing up at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres. A couple of the texts that I saw from today, from our last conversation in the first segment. One texter writes in, please, can we start playing good in first periods after this game? Playing down 2 goals or more is Granato crap from last season. Another one, sort of saying this out of emotion, but also not kidding. My fandom for this team is riding on this year. If this is a repeat of last season, I'm done. Tired of investing time and money for the same result every season for the last 13 years. I can't really be that insane. So that's another one where everyone's got their line in the sand. And for that guy, that's this year maybe. Another texter, a lot of passes and skates, pucks bouncing off of sticks and losing control, losing board battles, odd man breaks given up, giveaways. It's the same old bleep. Can't argue with that. It really was the same old bleep. Let's get into, though, how it happened, and I'll try to find something positive to squeak in here before we get rolling out of the show here today. Let's go through the goals, though, one by one, starting really the first 3 goals that went against the Sabres by the New Jersey Devils. 1-0 in the first period is where we are going to start. This is at about 8:39, the 8:39 mark of the first period. Steven Nuisen gets his first goal of the season, the first goal of the NHL season. And this play is courtesy of Mattias Samuelsson. The play is not going poorly. Jordan Greenway, Connor Clifton, they are playing physical along the boards, and their work gets the puck to Samuelsson by himself behind the net. Now Samuelsson, time to get the puck out of the zone. And the blame pie. Let's play a little game of blame pie here. I'm not going to give all 100% to Mattias Samuelsson. I'll give 5% to Luukkonen because, he could have made the save. It was tough, but he could have made the save. So very little Luukkonen. I will give maybe like 10% to Jason Zucker and then 85% to Samuelsson. The reason I'm not going 100% Samuelsson is that could be a miscommunication of new teammates. Where do you want the puck as you're coming out of the zone? There's a guy right there on you. And Zucker also could have caught the pass. It just would have been incredibly difficult. But it's on Samuelsson. Samuelsson does not need to make that pass there that way. And he misses. It's way too far in front. And it's a complete, utter turnover. In fact, it's right on the tape of the Devils forechecker. So that it's such a bad turnover. It's such a clean turnover. The Devil player not having to gather the puck. He's able to get it right out into the slot. And then Nuisen's walking in by himself. The Sabres don't have any time to recover because the turnover was that clean. Samuelsson zone exit, that can't happen. I mean, that's why he's on the third pair maybe to start the season. That is a direct result of him just not getting the puck out. You've got a little time there. Shield it. Sit in the corner. Look for something that's more open. Dump it out. I hate that. That's a punt. But it's better than trying to force a pass to a guy that's not open and is stopped, by the way. That's really another big problem I have with Samuelsson choosing to pass that puck there to Zucker. Watch the playback. If he gets it to him, there's nowhere for him to go. He is flat-footed. He is not moving. If anything, all he's going to do is try to pin the puck against the boards and try to retain possession. You're down in the fight. You're down in the fight against the Devils in that zone exit. But only because that's the pass you decided to make. You could have come out ahead had a different decision been made by Mattias Samuelsson. That's 1-0. 2-0, about 7 minutes later. That one I don't really even want to put on anybody. It's just kind of a goal that happens. I mean, you let the Devils get set up far too easily. And a big part of that on that play was Owen Power and Bo Byram. And I noticed this a couple of times where those are two lefties playing on the same pair. Neither's done it a ton. Power's done it some. Byram's done it some, but not like Dahlin. Dahlin's someone who's done it his whole life. And you saw a little bit of miscommunication between the two on 2 separate occasions very early on. In fact, there's one they got lucky didn't go in the back of their net where they miscommunicated, didn't know who to pick up who. And Jesper Bratt came in alone and Luukkonen stopped him. This play doesn't end up going so well for them. The zone entry is because Byram and Power are both on the same side of the ice. And it was on the right side, by the way. I think Byram just got caught shuffling himself too far over to the middle. Otherwise, I didn't mind Byram in this game. That one moment I did not like, and it ends up resulting in a goal eventually as the play continued. So that goal though, otherwise that's a wrist shot from the point. You didn't really allow anybody in front. I guess you don't want your forwards screening Luukkonen as much. I feel like that's just a goal that happens. That's a wrist shot from the point that hit like two things on the way through. I don't want to get on them too much for that. That's a goal that happens in the NHL to everybody. 3-0 Devils in the second period, 3:29 of the second. Nico Hischier in his first goal of the season. This one I put on Luukkonen. Luukkonen it's the only one I would put on Luukkonen more than anybody else. This is the play that kind of represented his game for me. The overall Luukkonen's game, I thought he looked real sloppy. I thought he looked like he was all over the place. He was overplaying pucks. He was overplaying his angles. He got caught out of position on this goal. It's a low wrister from the point. It's not a dangerous shot at all. It's not even that fast, and it's not in the air. And Luukkonen kicks the puck right like off to the side of the net, and there's a Devil standing right there. But I don't know why he had so much trouble handling that rebound. I thought he could have softly let it hit his pad and then paw down on it, get the whistle, or try to play it to somebody. Why he kicked it right after that Devil, it was weird to me. But more than that, once that Devil has it on the side, now he chases it outside his post. And his knee down, like his knee down pad is outside the goalpost. And the pass gets made, and he's so slow to get back in position. He's so late to get back in position. I think it's like athleticism. Like he was slow while he was trying. I think it was lack of focus. Maybe it was weird that he took that even in hockey, it's that 0.2 of a second, and that's all it was. But that's what matters. That's how the Hischier in the slot has 80% of the net to shoot at, because Luukkonen's not back yet in position. He's just a little late, and it would have taken a sprawling glove save to stop him there. So I put that one a little bit more on Luukkonen than I would the other players that were on the ice, over pursuing that play outside the post and then being late to get back to the middle to make up for it. The Sabres' goal in this game, Owen Power. Owen Power, a nice play. Overall, great shift. Byram into the zone. Peterka makes a great play behind the net. He takes a hit to make the great play. Power, good job on him. He's someone that I've criticized his shot of, or not even criticized, just said that's something he needs to improve on. And we saw some signs of that in the preseason, and we saw another sign of that here tonight. He had a couple other shots that looked like they had a lot of weight on them. I think he's improved it. I really do. I think early signs are Owen Power's shot is going to be a lot better this year, and he's going to score more goals than he ever has. And that started here on this game. Nice little hesitation, pick your spot, and then have the finish to be able to get it past the goaltender, even when you had that hesitation. So a good job by Power. JJ Peterka, Bo Byram get the assists. So those are your first 3 point getters for the Sabres on the season. Then the empty netter, Lindy Ruff pulls the goal with 2:40 to go, which I liked. I liked the early goalie pull. I know it didn't work in this case, but in general, I think that's a good way to philosophically go about when you pull your goaltender. Couple of bigger picture things that I want to get to when we come back, and any sort of what can we see that's different against the Devils tomorrow night. That's coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast with Joe DiBiase. We will be back, and be sure to check us out on our text line, joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres, and on our Twitter at Sneaky Joe Sports. Back in a moment. Back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, Sneaky Joe DiBiase. The Sabres fall 4-1 to the Buffalo Sabres. Some of your stats of the game. I mentioned your point getters. Owen Power scores the first goal of the year. JJ Peterka, Bo Byram get the first assists of the season. In this game, Dylan Cousins led the way with 7 shots on goal. Nobody else on the team had more than 3. Tage Thompson and Owen Power were the 2 that had 3. Luukkonen with 19 shot saves on 22 shots. That's an .864 save percentage on the night. Ice time. Alex Tuch plays the most of the forwards, 22 minutes, 31 seconds. Bo Byram plays 24 minutes, 52 seconds. That actually outpaced Dahlin as the most by the Sabres on the night. In fact, Power was second with 23-27. So, little interesting. that Power and Byram were kind of used as the top pair in this game. When looking at some of the advanced numbers in this game, by far, one Sabre was worse than the others. Nobody on the team had less than a 41% expected goals for percentage. And that actually was Tage Thompson. Tage Thompson was second worst on the team in this game with 41.9% of the expected goals at 5-on-5 when he's on the ice. Dead last, the worst player in this game at 28%, which almost blows my mind it's even possible because you're out there with the other guys that you would think are also putting up the poor performance, but not here. Alex Tuch at 28% is pretty darn bad. Alex Tuch's got to play better. And I saw it too. I saw some giveaways by Tuch. He didn't look all that dangerous to me. He'll have to play a lot better going forward. No doubt about it. So Alex Tuch, by the advanced numbers, was the worst Sabre on the night. The best Sabre on the night was Jason Zucker, who did have a 87% expected goals for. Dylan Cousins, by the way, not too far behind at 71%. Zucker had two chances that easily could have been goals, though. But the numbers on why he did so well. Shot attempts when Zucker was on the ice, 17 for the Sabres, 5 for the New Jersey Devils. He had two opportunities. One in the first period where Dahlin found him, kind of backdoor one-timer. He got robbed by Markstrom. And then he had another one that Power set him up on the power play in the second period where, again, a really nice save was made by Markstrom, who was really good in this game, Jacob Markstrom. Zucker wants to be a guy who's going to score goals. He talked this week about wanting to be someone who's back in the 20 goals and wants to play in an offensive role. I like the advanced numbers. It's a good telltale sign of what you can do for me. But if you want to be getting more opportunity and you want to get more ice time than the 7 minutes of even strength ice time he had in this game, you've got to bury those chances. If you want to be relied upon in a goal scorer, you had two grade A, arguably two of the best scoring chances the Sabres had in the whole 60 minutes were on one player's stick, and he didn't score on either of them. So if he wants to be that type of player, he's got to score one of those two, at least. You got to score one of those two when you have grade A opportunities. Power scored on his grade A opportunity, and he is not a very good goal scorer historically as a defenseman. Again, though, maybe he's improved. Maybe that's going to be better. And then the last guy I wanted to touch on before we get out of here, Tage Thompson. I got to see more from him tomorrow. That's Thompson. He had one chance in the second period where he came down in kind of alone, like half alone. And he had a great chance. And I was watching the NHL Network broadcast. And I think maybe it was the Devils broadcasters. The reaction was like, whoa, Tage, he missed the net by 10 feet on a goal, on a play where you could have very well scored. And listen, that guy is relied upon to be a 40 goal scorer this year for them. That opportunity has got to go in the back of the net, or it's got to come close. And it's more of a big picture topic that we could save, but it did have me thinking about what is fair to expect from Tage. You know, like, is it fair to expect him to be 45 goals, 45 assists? Is it fair to even ask him to be a number one center? When in 6 years in the NHL, he's been a number one center one time. He's been a number two center twice. I'm wondering about Tage. It's one game. I'm not going to go too far with that. I still think he's going to have a huge year. I projected him for 38 goals on the year, and I would stick to that. I would stick to that he's going to be at that number. But number one center in the league, I do think is probably a little bit higher than that. All right, what can go wrong tomorrow? Nothing can go wrong tomorrow. They can't look much worse at the start, and I bet they're going to look better at the start because they're going to have the wake-up call. Like, guys, what they're thinking about it right now. As they go to bed in Czechia, or actually they're probably asleep, the players. So maybe they're dreaming about it. I don't know. But when they wake up in the morning, it's going to be the first thing they're thinking about. We can't get off to another slow start. And that overcorrection, maybe they come out guns blazing tomorrow against the Devils at 10 a.m. The Sabres are an underdog in this game. I do wonder, I think we might see Devin Levi in this game, which is fine by me, right? I'm a huge Devin Levi guy. I am excited to see him. And Luukkonen, the way he played, I don't think warrants a back-to-back start. You're going to want to manage his starts and back-to-backs anyway, so I would go to Levi, and then we'll see what they do with the Obe-Kubel spot. Maybe it'd be Krebs, maybe Kulik. It could also be Lucas Rusek, by the way. Could be Lucas Rusek, because he's a winger. It could be. Krebs is a center. If they want to keep him at center and they want a gritty winger to put in the lineup, maybe Rusek actually does get the call. It's his home country too, so it would be special to him just as it would to Yuri Kulik. All right, it's going to do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. If you got a thought on the game, if you disagree with the take of mine, you want to add something, best way to do that, become a Locked On Sabres texter, join our text club. Through the games, we'll be live reacting as they progress. You could do that by sign up by going to our site for that, joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres. From there, it's all on your phone. Tweet us at Locked On Sabres, and hope we get some better results on Saturday against the Devils before the Sabres return home. You don't want 5 days of Sabre fans stewing in 2 losses before the home opener. The vibes of the home opener are on the line tomorrow. If they lose, and lose bad again, the home opener excitement is going to be really tapered down. If they win, right back at it. Thursday, let's go, home game, let's get this season on the right track. If they lose the game on Saturday, it's going to really make the home opener, it'll temper the excitement, I think, which nobody wants to have happen. We'll talk to you next time here in the Locked On Sabres podcast, hopefully after a Sabres win over the Devils. Here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, be sure to check out our season preview on Locked On NHL. Your second listen should be Locked On NHL with a 6-episode series bringing you the best local insight or to make you the most informed NHL fan heading into the season. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts.